back to the business and, what you guys have been able to create. So what is like a mistake or maybe a lesson that you've learned along the way that really fundamentally changed your view of business?
Oh, that's a good question. Mistakes is not having the right team.
Mm.
And this isn't some unique thought that I'm throwing out there, but it truly is. If you're going to start with if you're going to start a business, like, one, don't think you're going to do it on your own. One, that's how we're right here right now having this conversation.
Yeah.
But two, you can have the idea and you can do a lot, but if you don't have a good supporting team or a good knowledgeable team, it's going to be tough. But and so you have to think about two things when it comes to your team is are you going to bring in team members that have the experience already? Or are you going to bring in team members that you have to invest in to get the experience? Both of them cost money or cost resources.
Yeah.
You have to think about that when you're doing this. So that goes back to even the construction days. I was helping one of my subcontractors actually this last weekend because I actually love doing construction again, finally. But I actually really do love it. But because I feel like I'm accomplishing something when I build something. But anyway, we were talking about it, and we were talking about early on, I would hire people that didn't even know how to read a tape measure. Like, I
Mm.
wouldn't even consider that today. I'd be like, "Hey, yeah, this ain't gonna work. I'm not gonna invest in that. I'm gonna pay somebody who has some experience." Back then, he was super cheap, and I got what I paid for, but I
Yeah.
had to coach him up. So that would be my number one thing, or one of the top things is consider what your team looks like. It's just like anything,
Yeah.
having the supportive team or a knowledgeable team or team that can take you to where you need to be.
I think you bring up a really interesting point that I think is a pain point for a lot of people in this industry as the fitness business of finding the right coaches. Ninja is still very much a new sport. Like you said, it's like when you started, there was nothing, right? Like you guys were part of the innovators of that. And so with that comes, there's not just this abundance of ninja coaches just lying around. There's more than there used to be for sure. But what is your stance now? Obviously, you're going into new markets, into new cities that you're not currently located in with your franchises. How are you training these people? Is it a system? Is it a combination of finding the right skill setted person and then of growing them? What's your kind of view on that?
Yeah, so from a kind of a broad strokes scale, that's part of the scaling problems or the growing, and that's part of why we could actually have more locations open, but part of it is we want them to actually be successful. And as a franchisee, I'm telling you guys, like, this isn't any exaggeration. I bet besides doing events and stuff, we've done less than maybe $10,000 on marketing, expanding our selling gyms.
Mm.
And we got over 11, 12, or whatever it is, 11 open and more sold. Like, it sells itself. But because it is exciting, it's flashy, it's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Oh, Jake, you muted yourself.
but with that
You're good. You're
said,
good.
with that said, the training of it is going back to what I was saying, how we've always built our businesses off of systems when we knew there was something there to be had. We did that early on with Conquer too. I started implementing systems like, okay, this is how you're going to open the gym. This is how you close it. This is what this looks like. This is what this looks like. So we could scale, but the team, going back to the team thing and having the right team, that's a great question on how do you get them trained up? How do you have them do the way that we want to do it at Conquer? So we have a training program, kind of something that we built. There's that we put staff through in regards to obstacle training, how to's, things like that. And then from how to work with kids, how to work with parents, how to work with the obstacles. So we have some in gym stuff like that in our systems, but when we're trying to recruit, like you were saying, and you guys know this as well as anybody,
Mm.
because this is part
or
of your
negative voice.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there, it's not like trying to find, they just don't exist like
Yeah.
ninja coaches.
Yeah.
So where are we looking? You're looking in the fitness industry, you're looking in the coaches, but really we're looking for a type of person rather than the type of credentials.
Yeah,
Like,
the background. Yeah, that's huge. We tell our clients that all the time of hire the character, not the experience. The easy
yeah,
part is training them on ninja, right? The hard part is finding someone who is driven and professional, has a want to grow, is a good communicator, is relational, because fundamentally this business is a relational business. And so you need people who
yeah,
can do that and do that. Jake, you said something that like really stuck out to me, and I wanted to see if I could get you to clarify this or at least confirm what I thought you
yeah,
said, which was in a sense, like you could be at 25, 35, 45 locations by now. It's not a problem with the model, the framework, the business model. The challenge is getting the right people on the team, and scaling the people up is always the limiting factor. That's the kind of the bottleneck for the business model.
yeah. And that, once you get the gym open, that's a whole nother set of, like we were just talking about, you got to get the coaches, you got to have the manager, you got to have the assistant coaches and the staff. But even to get, before you get the gym open, now we're talking on the franchise, the business side of it, just to run the franchise company, to go from, that was part of our scaling problems through the years. And then you throw in having to shut down in 2020 because of COVID, like
Mm,
just when we're in the flow, and
yeah.
and we're not unique here, but we're just in the flow, and then boom, you gotta stall everything out. There's, how do you, having one location and then adding another, that's it's not too terribly difficult, because you can still, as an owner, you can still work back and forth
Yeah.
and
You can
have
still
the team.
micromanage the two.
Correct. Now go to 5,
Yeah.
go to 6,
No, it's not
and then
possible.
now you're going to a different market, different states. That changes all the dynamics. So you gotta, your team, and this is part of the growing pains that we've had too, is, we'll have to hire up the team to continue to be able to bring experience to that, has helped with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 locations, because it's a different dynamic, and that's a unique situation. So that's going back to one of the questions you had, is okay, that what are part of the pains, that's part of the growing pains, is being able to scale quick, because you identify when you need to bring in certain people or certain tools or
Hmm.
systems. And if you don't do that, you're going to have problems along the way. And so we hadn't built this big of brand before. There's been growing pains along the way in regards to scaling just our franchise company. So we can do it, but we have had good coaching, whether we've paid for it or not, that has told us, don't scale too fast, because there's certain pros and
Yeah.
cons to doing that.
Yeah. You'll get ahead of your skis or whatever.
Yeah, and you
Something
can't
goes.
deliver, because like we were talking about building, it's one thing to sell the gym. So we sell a location, or somebody buys a franchise. So now we bring them in for training, because we got to have staff to do the training with them and teach them about the ninja business and how Conquer does it. And then they have to acquire their space. So there's all types of things that go along with finding a location, whether you're buying the location or leasing
Mm,
it. So there's that portion of it. And now rubber actually meets the road. They find a location, sign a lease, or buy it. Now, what do you got to do to the space? Who does that? Who contracts it? And now you're setting up the obstacles and doing that. And then now you got to get your staff that are going to be ready to start selling memberships and start filling the gym. And there's a process that goes with that.
yeah.
And so when people come in all excited, they're excited that you gotta, if you don't have that team and that support for them, they get, people get overwhelmed, and because it can get overwhelming. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's like the thing that sticks out to me the most is talking to business owners and gym owners or anybody who wants to open up a ninja gym. It's always interesting to me that they're so focused on, oh, here's our brand, or here's our obstacles, and oh, look at our color scheme, and look at and it really boils down to, you see the successful people be the people who can do the boring work or do the daily reps of, we need systems and structure in place to keep our product consistent, to keep our people consistent, to keep our language that we're using within the business consistent. And that part is the most challenging part. I could tell you the number
Yeah.
one problem when we're consulting our clients, the number one problem we hear is, I can't get people. I can't get people. I can't hire people. I can't scale people. I can't this, I can't that. So I specifically spend a lot of time thinking about this and how to resolve these problems. I can definitely
So
appreciate, go ahead, Jake. What were you gonna say?
yeah, so when go into that a little bit more. So what in part of it is just that. What are they having some of these issues because they're having issues with giving up some of the power or the control, or what are the dynamics of why you're seeing or hearing this from certain gym owners? Or
It's definitely a combination of things. Each circumstance is a little bit different. They all have commonalities, and I'll list those out for you. The number one commonality I see in that situation is leadership issues. For example, micromanagement, the need to control every aspect of the business. And so we always tell them, your people need the room to fail. You can't give them area of responsibility and then be like, okay, here it is, just don't mess it up. It's like, we always grew our people, and we still have this mentality of, give it to them, and make sure you give it to them in a situation where they can drive it into the wall a few times and know what it's like to mess it up, but help them fundamentally understand why messing it up hurts everybody. And so that way they can see it from the business owner's perspective. And so in that sense, we want to help employ micro business owners within our business, right? Is help them have
yeah.
ownership of what they're providing. So it's definitely first and foremost a leadership thing. Then the next three things, and this is what I primarily coach them on, is careers, compensation, and culture. Those are the three things anybody's looking for if they want to work for you. And normally a business is missing out on one of those. So careers are going to be long-term buy-in, compensation is going to be short-term buy-in, and culture is going to be day-to-day buy-in. So and you could have two of the three, but you'll still lose someone because one of those is going to be a weak point, right? Like, maybe I pay really good hourly and it's fun to work with me, but I don't have a career path for them. And so they're like, this has been great. I want a future. I want to build to something. I want to work towards something long term. And that's where careers are really important, is that they need to have a track out in front of them. The next thing would be compensation, which is, Ali and I have a lot of experience with this, of working for people who can cast a vision for you and you buy into it and you're like, yeah. And then you start materializing it. And then it's okay. They wrote checks that they can't cash, basically, or you can't cash. And so it's, we're planning to. And you're like, dude, you said that 12 months ago. We've made exponential progress since then. So you can't tell me it's a money thing. You can't tell me it's like lacking resources. It's just, you aren't ready for the next step, which a lot of times is letting go. And that seems to be the thing that holds back a lot. But compensation is huge in the sense that I always related to sports. And Jake, we talked about this before, of, you can't go out wanting to acquire the Tom Brady's of kids coaching. You want to get that level of Hall of Fame talent in your doors to be your coaches and pay them what you would pay some garbage rookie, and then attribute it to their work ethic. I just think that's like passing the buck off and being like, yeah, this generation doesn't want to work. It's good people don't want to work for minimum wage. They know their value. And so they don't really want to lean into that. So it's like, you have to, if you want the 18 players, you have to compensate with contracts and pay that shows you're willing to pay for that talent and pay for those 18 players. And then finally, culture, which is the day-to-day. You can have great careers, you can have great compensation, you pay me good money, I can see a great future with you, but I literally hate seeing you and the team and the culture inside of the business, and maybe the work ethic around the business is just terrible, where it just feels like a toxic environment. There's not freedom, there's not autonomy. And so that's the other thing that really robs a business of its ability to keep good people, is that they just eventually get fed up and they're like, yeah, you're paying me good and the culture, or excuse me, you're paying me good and the careers are great, but the day-to-day is just rotten to the core. And so I'm going to go somewhere else to work because I just hate being here. So
Which
those are the three.
I think this business has a little bit of an advantage on the culture thing because it's just fun to be in that type of environment. Ninja's fun, working with kids is fun. Obviously, you have to have the right kind of personality for it and be interested in that. So I think we do have some advantage of that, but it really just comes down to the right communication channels. And like Charlie said, I think a big revolving door for people is we want to just hire part time. We want to just hire
Yeah. Yeah.
leaders. We want to just do it part time. We want to give them minimum wage. And then they're shocked when they have this revolving door of part-time
Right.
coaches. And again, this is a relationship built business. So if you have this coach who is only there for 3 months, and then they establish these relationships with the kids they're coaching, and now that coach is gone, that hurts the business, right? And
Yeah.
maybe those kids are going to go where that coach is going or whatever. And we've seen that a lot happen too.